Soaked, shivering, and with nowhere left to turn, Lily thought the world had forgotten her, until a stranger appeared with nothing but a warm smile and an umbrella, offering a chance at hope she never expected. The rain poured down in relentless sheets, drumming against the cracked pavement and soaking Lily through to her bones. Her coat, thin and threadbare, offered little protection, and her shoes squelched with every step. She stumbled along the empty streets, the neon signs of closed shops reflecting off puddles like fractured memories of a life that had once felt stable. Her apartment had been taken after she fell behind on rent, her meager savings wiped away by unexpected bills, and every door she knocked on met with rejection or polite avoidance. Fear curled around her chest like a heavy chain, and hopelessness settled in her stomach like ice. She had no plan, no place to sleep, no familiar face to turn to. The city that once felt alive now seemed alien, harsh, and indifferent. Every sound, the splash of tires and puddles, the distant honk of a horn, the rustle of leaves in the wind, felt amplified, reminding her of just how alone she was. She pressed herself against a tattered awning, trying to escape the torrent, but even that offered only partial shelter. Her hair plastered to her forehead, water dripping into her eyes, she shivered uncontrollably. Every muscle in her body ached, not just from the cold, but from the weight of exhaustion, fear, and defeat. She had never felt so small, so invisible, so utterly lost. Then, through the blur of rain and despair, she saw him. He wasn't rushing past, oblivious to her misery, as most people did. Instead, he moved with a calm, steady presence, his figure almost luminous in the gloom. He held a large, warm umbrella, and his eyes, gentle and kind, met hers for just a moment. A faint smile tugged at his lips, and in it, there was an unspoken message. You are not alone. For the first time in what felt like weeks, Lily felt her chest loosen, just a little. There was something in his calm demeanor, in the quiet assurance of his expression, that made her consider stepping forward. Could this stranger possibly offer more than just shelter from the rain? Could someone still care in a world that had seemed so cruel? A flicker of hope sparked in Lily's heart, fragile but undeniable, as the storm raged on around her. Lily hesitated, unsure whether to trust him. Strangers rarely offered help without expecting something in return. Yet there was something in the calm way he approached, in the gentle tilt of his head and the warmth in his eyes, that made her pause. She nodded slowly, stepping out from under the awning and into the light of the umbrella he held above them both. Don't worry, he said softly. We'll get you somewhere dry. His voice was steady, comforting, like a lighthouse in the storm of her life. He led her down the slick sidewalks, his presence quiet but assuring, and without needing to ask, he seemed to know exactly what she needed, a break from the rain, a moment to catch her breath, a sense that she wasn't invisible. They arrived at a small shelter tucked between two old brick buildings. Warm light spilled from the windows, casting a soft glow on the wet pavement. Volunteers bustled inside, carrying blankets and hot drinks. The air smelled faintly of cinnamon and soup, comforting in a way Lily hadn't felt in months. He guided her through the entrance, helping her shake off the water that clung to her coat and hair. Sit down, he said, handing her a warm cup of coffee. Steam curled into the air, and Lily wrapped her freezing hands around it, feeling the heat seep slowly into her fingers. For the first time since losing her apartment, since feeling like the world had closed every door on her, she felt a small, fragile sense of safety. As she sipped, she noticed the quiet kindness in his movements. He didn't just direct her to a seat or hand her a drink, he introduced her to a few of the volunteers, checked that she was comfortable, and stayed near enough to make her feel seen, without hovering. It was a delicate balance, a simple gesture, but it meant the world to her. Lily's heart, heavy from weeks of fear and loneliness, began to unclench, just a little. She realized that sometimes, hope arrives not in grand gestures or miraculous solutions, but in the quiet patience and genuine care of someone willing to show up when you need it most. And in that moment, sitting in the warm shelter with coffee warming her hands, Lily allowed herself the tiniest flicker of trust, and the thought that maybe, just maybe, she hadn't been abandoned after all. Over the next few days, Lily found herself returning to the shelter, not because she had nowhere else to go, but because of him. The man, whose name she learned was Daniel, never treated her as if she were helpless or pitiful. Instead, he listened. Really listened. He asked about her life, her dreams, and even her fears, without judgment. He didn't try to fix everything at once or overwhelm her with advice, he simply offered his time, attention, and a steady presence. At first, Lily was cautious, holding back pieces of herself as if exposing them would make her vulnerable to rejection. But Daniel had a way of making space feel safe. When she spoke about losing her apartment, her words trembled with shame, but he nodded gently, his eyes kind, and said, "It's not your fault. Life sometimes just throws storms at us. But storms don't last forever." His patience and empathy gradually softened the walls Lily had built around her heart. She shared stories of her childhood, her aspirations, and the struggles she'd faced over the past few months. And for the first time in what felt like forever, she laughed. Softly, genuinely, between sips of the warm coffee he always seemed to have ready. Daniel's kindness wasn't just about the shelter or the hot meals. It was in the small gestures, remembering her favorite coffee, offering a blanket when she shivered, checking on her when she didn't show up for a day. Each act was subtle, yet cumulative, creating a sense of stability Lily hadn't felt in years. One evening, after helping her carry a box of donated supplies back to the storage room, Lily paused and looked at him. "Why are you helping me so much?" she asked quietly, vulnerability in her voice. Daniel smiled gently. "Because everyone deserves a chance to feel safe, to feel seen, and to feel hope again. You're no different." Lily felt a lump in her throat. The weight of her loneliness, her despair, her constant fear of being lost, it all seemed a little lighter. She realized that kindness, genuine and selfless, had the power to heal not just circumstances, but hearts. And in that moment, she understood, her life could begin again, not through luck or chance, but through the transformative power of someone choosing to care. A week had passed since Lily had first stepped into the warm shelter, and slowly, she began to feel something she hadn't in months: hope. Daniel's consistent presence, his gentle encouragement, and the little ways he helped her regain her confidence had started to lift the weight of despair she had carried for so long. But it wasn't until she voiced a simple, quiet dream that things began to change in a profound way. One evening, as the shelter settled into calm after a busy day, Lily found herself sitting across from Daniel, a small notebook in her lap. I want a place of my own," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Somewhere I can feel safe, where I can start over." Daniel looked at her for a moment, then nodded with a smile that carried reassurance. "I think I know someone who can help," he said. He didn't make promises he couldn't keep, but his tone conveyed a quiet confidence that something good was possible. True to his word, the following days were filled with opportunities Lily hadn't dared to imagine. Daniel connected her with a local organization dedicated to helping individuals who had experienced housing insecurity. They guided her through paperwork, helped her apply for a small apartment, and even provided support for finding part-time work. Every step of the way, Daniel was there, not controlling or taking over, but walking beside her, offering guidance and encouragement whenever she faltered. Finally, the day came when Lily received the keys to her very own apartment. It was modest, a small living room, a tiny kitchen, and a bedroom that could barely fit her belongings. But to Lily, it felt like a palace. For the first time in months, she had a space that was entirely hers, a sanctuary where she could breathe, rest, and rebuild her life. Standing at the threshold of her new home, Lily felt a rush of gratitude. She looked around, imagining the life she could create within these walls, and realized that this wasn't just a physical home, it was a symbol of the kindness that had transformed her entire world. A single act of selflessness, a willingness to care and to listen, had given her a second chance, one that she vowed she would never forget. Lily stepped into her new apartment, the keys cold in her hand but her heart warm with gratitude. The space was modest, yet for the first time in months, it felt like a home. She ran her fingers along the counters, touched the walls, and looked out the window at the quiet street below. Everything was new, but more importantly, everything felt possible. As she unpacked her few belongings, memories of the past weeks came rushing back. She thought of the nights she had spent shivering in the rain, the hopeless mornings when every door had been closed to her, and the crushing loneliness that had made the world seem so cold. And then, she remembered Daniel, the man who had appeared when she had no one, who had offered not just shelter, but patience, understanding, and unwavering kindness. It wasn't just the apartment he had helped her find, it was the reminder that someone cared, that the world still had light even in the darkest storms. Lily realized that Daniel's actions had done more than give her a home, they had given her confidence, hope, and a renewed sense of self-worth. Later that evening, she sat by the window, sipping tea, and reflected on what had changed. She understood that kindness was not measured by grand gestures, but by the sincerity and consistency of small actions. The simple choice to help another human being, to see their struggle and respond with compassion, could ripple through someone's life in ways that seemed almost magical. Moved by this realization, Lily made a silent promise to herself. She would carry forward the generosity she had received. Whether it was offering a listening ear, sharing a meal, or simply a smile, she would ensure that others could feel the same warmth that had saved her. She didn't need to wait for someone else to act. She could be the change, the hope, the kindness in someone else's storm. As night fell and the city lights shimmered through her window, Lily smiled. She had found more than a home, she had discovered the transformative power of compassion. And she knew, deep in her heart, that one act of genuine kindness had the potential to change not just a single life, but countless others. The story ends with a simple, enduring truth: even in a world that can feel cold and unforgiving, a single act of selfless kindness can illuminate lives, restore hope, and create a ripple of change that lasts forever.